right, sports fans, here I am back in the kitchen with my dear friend Jeanette Ingold. We've been friends for such a long time, haven't we?
We have been,
I
Kathy,
feel like we've been sisters on the journey.
on a journey that's taken us here, there, and yonder in the United States, and it's always a treat to be together. Thanks for having me here.
Oh my gosh, so nice to have you. I have invited Jeanette here today to talk about her brand new novel, Paper Daughter. So you want to hold it up there, Jeanette, so we can show everybody? I'm going to zoom in here. And what I'd like to do, I've asked Jeanette to do, is to give us a little rundown on Paper Daughter, to tell us a little about it. So, Jeanette, you want to give us a story of Paper Daughter?
I'll be happy to. This is Maggie Chen, and I have to say, I think this is just a beautiful book cover.
I completely agree with you.
And,
I totally agree with you on that. Show us the back of it.
This is it, and actually, this is so cool. Look at the way the front just wraps to the back, and the story keeps going. And I love to write about places. I love to step into places, and this cover does that. Which it's just always such a nice surprise when you see a book jacket in it, and you think, yeah, they got it. So that was a good start. But this is Maggie Chen. She's a teenage girl who is a writer, and she's wanted for years to she's dreamed about having a career in a newspaper office, maybe on television, something in journalism. And she gets her chance. She gets a job as a summer intern at a Seattle area newspaper. Only tragedy happens, really. Her dad is killed. As she goes through his papers, she starts to learn that perhaps he was not the person she had always thought he was. A wonderful man, but with secrets and an identity that she didn't know about, her mom didn't know about. As she starts her job at the newspaper, she gets involved helping with a story that also concerns people with false identities. And as the book progresses, Maggie's job really becomes untangling a series of secrets, untangling mysteries, and those two stories start to come together.
It's interesting to me that the thing that makes Maggie so good at her chosen career, being a reporter, being an investigative journalist, also brings her face to face with her own past, her family's past, and it's almost like a perfect storm in a way. What this book is, it's so rich. With the what you did is you incorporated the letters, some of the papers, all of that with the things that Maggie discovers. There's also such a mystery to it. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I would love to. And let me go back to the first thing you just said, Kathy. One of the things that was fun about writing this story was that I got to have my main character confronted with a mystery, a pair of mysteries: who her dad was, and who was behind the corruption in the story that she's working on for the paper. And she went through a process of finding the truth that's very much like the kind of research that I do when I work on a book. So in finding her dad's story, for instance, she started going back farther and farther, further and further, reading old postcards, examining old photographs, going to library archives, going to the National Archives Regional Depository, where she started seeing files from a long time ago, and got to step into the lives not only of her dad, but of her grandparents and great-grandparents, the Chinese people, that immigrants that she had not known anything about, who came here during the exclusion era. She got to learn and to live more than just her own life. She got to, in a way, know what it would have been like to have been her great-grandmother, perhaps. And that's one of the thrills of reading and writing. You get to do that. You get to lead more than your own life.
One of the things that you just said to me earlier was that books let us live more than one life. I just love that. And you put it in the context of yourself as a writer of historical fiction. And I had never thought of it in that way, but just listening to you talk about Maggie and the character that you've created, did you ever, during the process, feel like you were actually writing your shadow?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and one of the neat things, you know, I've been a writer forever, it seems like. But my first writing job was in a newsroom. It wasn't a glamorous job. I was hired to write obituaries. So I started my working day every afternoon by calling all the funeral homes in western Montana and asked who died.
Oh my gosh.
But I loved that job. And I got to write. I wanted to write the excitement of a newsroom and also the work and the hard drudgery of it, and sometimes the monotony of it. You do rewrites. You do look up basketball schedules. You do obituaries. But you also get to go out on the exciting stories. And I think that's there. I wanted to write that. I also wanted to examine what's happening today, because Maggie's not in a newsroom like mine was. Nobody knows what's happening in newsrooms. Nobody knows what's happening in journalism.
Right.
The changes are happening so fast, but there are things that are important. And I wanted to talk about these. I wanted Maggie thinking about why journalism's important, why it's important to find the truth in a story, to what it means to be honest and independent. And I also wanted her to examine the thing that always bothered me and still does, and that's that when you do a good job, sometimes the best possible job you can do on a story, and you find the truth and you tell it, you also can hurt innocent people. It's a two-edged sword. And you know, we write novels partly because we want to examine things we're still thinking about. And that's something I've never really resolved in my own mind. Writing Paper Daughter got me to work with that a little bit more.
You found your other life in that story, didn't you?
I did.
It's such a lovely book. I'm so glad that you wrote it.
Thank you, Kathi.
So before we leave, I have my stock question for all my author friends, all my creative friends. And that is, do you have a tip that you would like to share with young writers, young readers, anybody for that matter?
This is a tip I would share with anybody, and that is to follow byways. And if you're like me, you're geographically challenged, you can get lost driving down your driveway. You know, you just view it as a gift. I went to the National Archives in Seattle, researching a different book. I was working on Hitch. I wanted original material about the CCC. But when you stay open to surprises, then when an archivist comes and says, by the way, would you like to see what else we have here? You say yes. And that's when you find something like the files that led to the backstory in Paper Daughter.
When I think about you, Jeanette, I think about yes.
Thank you.
Jeanette, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathi.
And congratulations on this beautiful book.
Thank you.